up on this Wednesday edition of Newsline at noon, gunmen storm a luxury hotel in the Libyan capital of Tripoli, killing at least 10 people, including 5 foreigners. The Tripoli branch of Islamic State claims responsibility. A new video released by Islamic State threatens to kill Japanese hostage Kenji Goto and a Jordanian pilot if the female terrorist held in Jordan is not freed within the next 24 hours. Plus, the government vows to radically streamline red tape to promote online banking and other IT-based financial services. These stories and more on Newsline at noon. It's noon Wednesday, January 28th here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. Live from Seoul, I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
It's very good to have you with us. I'm Mark Broome. We begin with the chaos in Tripoli after suicide bombers attacked a luxury hotel in the Libyan capital, killing at least 10 people. A Tripoli branch of Islamic State has claimed responsibility for the attack.
Now, earlier reports have been saying that a Korean national was among 5 of the foreign victims in the attack. However, Seoul's foreign ministry says they haven't received any confirmation about that from Libyan authorities. Kim Min-ji has the latest.
A pair of gunmen stormed a luxury hotel in Tripoli Tuesday local time, killing at least 10 people, including 5 foreigners, before blowing themselves up. The attack began with a car bombing at the 5-star Corinthi Hotel, which is popular among government officials and visiting delegations. Security personnel evacuated guests, including the country's prime minister. The deaths of a French and an American national have been confirmed by their governments. The AFP said earlier that a Korean was among the dead. However, Seoul's foreign ministry said that no Korean casualties have been reported so far, citing Libyan officials, adding that it will report any new developments. A group calling itself Islamic State in Tripoli province said in a Twitter message it is responsible for the attack, saying it was revenge for an al-Qaeda terrorist suspect who died in the U.S. earlier this month. The Libyan prime minister condemned the attack and vowed that those responsible would be brought to justice. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Islamic State has threatened to kill a second Japanese hostage and a Jordanian pilot being held by the group within 24 hours if their demands are not met.
The group wants a prisoner swap for a failed female suicide bomber detained in Jordan. The Japanese government says it's doing all it can to bring Mr. Goto home. Jim Young-gil has more.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe on Wednesday called a new video featuring the Japanese hostage Kenji Goto despicable and vowed to secure his release.
It's a despicable act. I feel strong anger. I have put out an order that we work together as one on securing the release of Kenji Goto as soon as possible.
The 2-minute video, which was posted on YouTube on Tuesday, demands the release of Sajida al-Rishawi, an Iraqi woman sentenced to death in Jordan for her involvement in a 2005 hotel terror attack. The video's narrator says any more delays by the Jordanian government to release the Iraqi suicide bomber will mean they'll be responsible for the death of their pilot. The Jordanian pilot was captured after his jet crashed in Syria last December during a bombing mission against the militants. The Japanese government has been asking for the Jordanian government's support for Goto's release. In a previous video uploaded on Saturday, a voice purported to be Goto's announced that Islamic State militants had executed fellow Japanese hostage Haruna Yukawa, who was seized in August. Goto is a freelance journalist who was taken hostage in Syria in October while trying to rescue Yukawa. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Russia has reportedly confirmed that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will visit Moscow in May, citing the Kremlin. Seoul-based NM News reported this morning that Kim is among the 20 heads of states that have confirmed their plans to attend Russia's celebrations for the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. The report added, however, that the Kremlin has not yet finalized its guest list. If the North Korean leader visits Russia, it will be his first overseas trip since coming into power in late 2011. President Park Geun-hye has also been invited but has not confirmed her attendance yet. Meanwhile, South Korea will resume a government-run program to support the training of North Korean doctors in Germany for the first time since 2008. The Unification Ministry said Wednesday it will provide the North Korea-Germany Medical Association with $83,000 from the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The project, which Germany launched in 2001, invites North Korean doctors to learn medical techniques at German hospitals. The latest resumption of aid is part of the Park Geun-hye administration's push to expand humanitarian assistance to North Korea separately from political tensions.
The chief nuclear envoys from South Korea, the United States and Japan are meeting in Tokyo for talks on this Wednesday. Topping the agenda are North Korea's nuclear ambitions and ways to resume the six-party nuclear talks. The multilateral dialogue involving the two Koreas, the US, China, Japan and Russia, aimed at denuclearizing the North, has been stalled since late 2008. An official at Seoul's foreign ministry said South Korea is seeking more bilateral and trilateral meetings within the six-party format this year, in addition to discussing North Korea's nuclear program during inter-Korean talks. The top U.S. official in South Korea has expressed his support for Seoul in its bitter diplomatic row with Tokyo over Japan's past wrongdoings. U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Mark Lippert said Washington is aware that Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of tens of thousands of Korean women is a highly emotive issue here in Korea. Hwang Sang-hee reports.
Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's seemingly unapologetic attitude about Japan's wartime atrocities is drawing concerns from the United States. In an interview on Tuesday, U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Mark Lippert recognized the gravity of the so-called comfort women issue.
The President of the United States, when he was here in April, called the treatment shocking. So we know that it's tough and a very emotional issue.
The unresolved matter of Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women has been the biggest thorn in Seoul and Tokyo's bilateral ties. Abe stirred things up this week by hinting that his so-called Abe statement may drop words of apology used in statements by his predecessors. He is set to unveil it this summer to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II. Lippert expressed U.S. support for the existing Kono and Murayama statements and addressed President Park Geun-hye's recent efforts to mend ties.
We found that President Park's recent proposal of a trilateral foreign minister meeting as a constructive step that could possibly lead to a trilateral summit.
The ambassador welcomed Seoul's efforts to improve relations with Pyongyang, saying the U.S. has no concerns with the speed or scope of the inter-Korean dialogue proposed by President Park. And when will Washington be ready to engage with the communist state? That, he said, is when the North is willing to take steps for a complete, irreversible, verifiable denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News.
Stay up to date on the latest news out of Korea, connecting to our team of reporters about the issues that matter to Korea. On air, on your mobile, online. Find out more about Korea on NEWSLINE at Noon with Mark Broome and Eoh Jin-joo.
I'm Eoh Jin-joo.
Market researcher, strategy analytics, said Thursday that LG Electronics brought in about...
Fintech, or financial technology, is an industry that has been growing at a staggering pace in recent years, with startups and large corporations alike shuffling for space. But the high entry barrier, due largely to strict regulations, have prevented them jumping into the field. Korea is now taking steps to strip away some of these outdated rules, as it has identified fintech as a new growth engine. Kam Tae-ri reports.
The day when you can wire money to your friends after just a quick fingerprint or retina scan may not be too far away. Korea's financial authorities have announced a set of measures to make sure the fintech industry, short for financial technology, ensures the ultimate convenience. The transaction limit is set to go up, and the entry barrier is to go down. The idea here is to simplify mobile payments and encourage innovation in finance. In the bigger picture, it's part of the Park Geun-hye administration's campaign to deregulate and find new growth engines. The volume of mobile payments has been growing fast in Korea, too, with the total flirting with the $3 billion mark as of the second quarter of last year. And with digital wallets such as Apple Pay and Alipay replacing cash and credit cards, the global market is expected to grow fast. There are security concerns with cyber breaches at major government agencies and banks over the past few years in Korea. Authorities say they are planning to hold the IT companies involved legally responsible and increase the level of compensation if breaches occur. Now, after this latest move to cut some of the red tape, the focus is on how traditional banks will take to the challenge and how new startups will make names for themselves in the new financial landscape. Kang Chae-ri, Arirang News.
Bank of Korea Governor Eoh Jin-joo says the central bank is keeping a close eye on global oil prices given the growing uncertainties. During a meeting with economic experts on Wednesday, Lee said the Korean economy could easily be affected by crude oil prices, so the bank is devising scenarios for both cases if prices fall further or rebound. The governor also said they're looking into just how long the low price trend will continue, saying that the bank had expected oil prices to rebound in the second half of the year when it released its new growth outlook earlier this month.
South Korea has been ranked in the top 30 countries in terms of economic freedom. The list, drawn up by the US-based Heritage Foundation, gives South Korea a score of 71.5, which is 0.3 points higher than last year. South Korea also jumped 2 ranks from 31st to 29th. The country scored relatively high in terms of giving local companies and its finance sector freedom to do business, but it scored poorly in terms of giving freedom to laborers and also public transparency. Hong Kong topped the list, followed closely by Singapore. North Korea was rock bottom. Now, things are looking even more brighter for US smartphone maker Apple. It has posted staggering sales of 74.5 million iPhones just in the last quarter, and its share price is soaring. And the trend looks likely to continue, with the company predicting more of the same in the coming quarter. Our Kim Ji-yeon reports.
Apple saw its revenue and profit soar during the holiday quarter thanks to its record sales of its plus-size iPhones. Apple sold 74.5 million iPhones during the fourth quarter last year, up 46% from the same period the previous year. That's in comparison to the 51 million units of its iPhone 5 models sold in the fourth quarter in 2013. Sales during the October to December period drove the company's total revenue to $74.6 billion, up 30% from a year earlier. The company's net profit shot up to its highest level of $18 billion, reporting earnings of $3.06 a share. Buoyed by its earnings report, Apple shares increased nearly 7% at one point during Tuesday trading, closing at around $109 a share. The bigger screens are mainly responsible for the popularity of the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, released in September 2014. They're the biggest iPhones yet, equipped with a 4.7-inch and 5.5-inch screen when measured diagonally. That compares to the 4-inch screen on its predecessor iPhone 5 models. Apple is predicting another amazing quarter in the 3 months leading to March, with quarterly revenue of between $52 to $55 billion. This, while other U.S. companies such as Microsoft have lowered their forecasts due to the strength of the dollar. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, in this day and age, it's hard to argue with the importance of teaching children how to program computer software. The government recognises this need and is expanding its plans to teach elementary school kids the basics. The plan is very ambitious, but is the framework in place? Shin Se-min reports.
Developing your own computer software would be a daunting task for the uninitiated, but it's a key skill to know in this increasing technological age. Kids in Korean schools are learning the basics of software design using this program called Scratch.
I used to think designing and developing software was difficult, but I realized that it can be quite easy using programs such as this.
By matching up some programming codes and hooking up the light sensors to the system, children can even create their own computer game.
Learning the concept of software allows them to understand the computer games they play. I also see them introducing software programs to their younger brothers and sisters. It's a great way of learning and owning the skills they've acquired.
Software education is being rolled out across more schools in Korea. The Science Ministry is aiming to up the number of elementary and middle schools teaching software from 72 to more than 230 this year. The ministry also plans to hold more than 10 creative software camps in 2015.
Teaching software development is a great way of stimulating young minds and getting them interested in programming.
The ideas are grand, but putting them into practice could prove trickier. Many schools in Korea still lack enough computer labs, PCs, and teachers sufficiently trained in programming. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Let's now get a check on some of the other global headlines we're following this Wednesday lunchtime from Seoul. For that, we connect to our Eunice Kim standing by at the news center.
Eunice, let's begin in Poland, where world leaders gathered with the survivors of the Auschwitz camp as Tuesday marked 70 years since its liberation.
That's right, Mark. There were memorials held around the world, but hundreds of survivors made their way to the infamous concentration site itself, where they had spent part of their childhood to mourn, remember, and remind the world of the atrocities committed by Nazi soldiers of the past. Kim Hyun-bin takes us there.
Nazi Germany's largest and most notorious concentration camp, Auschwitz, was where some 1.1 million people, mostly Jews, were killed between 1940 and 1945. Over 300 aging survivors and a host of world leaders visited Auschwitz on Tuesday to reflect upon the slaughter that took place there. Over 70 years have passed, but the last survivor said the world should never forget the horrors that took place in Auschwitz and the Nazis' other death camps.
Some of the people still saying that it never happened. I'm here to tell the world it happened, and the world have to learn from it and to live in peace.
The elderly, women, and young children were killed in gas chambers and were burnt into ashes in incinerators, proof of the Nazis' atrocities.
They were killing people like nothing. It didn't mean anything. The smell was so bad here from burning people.
The event could mark one of the last major anniversaries attended by a large showing of survivors, given that the youngest are now in their 70s. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
A new cabinet has been formed in Greece, tasked with governing the debt-laden nation. At the post of finance minister, new Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras named economist and author Yanis Varoufakis to lead the charge to renegotiate the country's massive bailout, as was promised by the far-left Syriza party, which had enjoyed a big win at Sunday's general elections. The new finance minister, a Greek-Australian, is described as an outspoken critic of the bailout conditions imposed on Greece. A member of the Independent Greeks Party, a Syriza coalition partner, was named to the post of defense minister. Brouhaha on social media over the Clint Eastwood film American Sniper is spilling into real life. A Twitter firestorm had ensued after filmmaker Michael Moore and the interview star Seth Rogen voiced their displeasures of the movie, based on the autobiography of American sniper Chris Kyle. Michigan restaurant owner Tommy Brand said Moore and Rogen would not be welcome at his eatery for their insensitive comments that were hurtful to the men and women serving in the U.S. military. Rogan had tweeted the movie was a glorification of violence, while Moore said his uncle was killed by a sniper and that snipers were not heroes. American Sniper earned more than $100 million in ticket sales on opening weekend, making it the most popular film at U.S. box offices on January 16th.
And moving on, it's one of the most popular and well-known productions here in Korea, and it features drum beats and kitchen utensils.
Yeah, Nanta recently made history for being the most watched Korean production of all time, in actual fact. So for more on what this means for Korea's performing arts scene in general, here's our Connie Lee.
There's a lot of drumming, beating, knife wielding, and acting. This is just a brief behind-the-scenes look at Korea's very own production of Nanta. The rhythmic show just made history, hitting the 10 million viewer mark at home and abroad at the end of last year. That makes this not only the longest-running show in Korea, now in its 18th year, but also the most-watched Korean production of all time.
For a local theatrical production to hit 10 million viewers, it's unheard of, but Nanta did it. This gives hope to other locally made productions that they too could succeed.
To mark this milestone, PMC Production, the firm behind the show, celebrated this week and honored the original cast members, pictured on the trademark Nanta poster. You might recognize some of them, like actor Lee Seung-ryong, who's had a recent string of hit movies. The nonverbal show about a group of chefs cooking for a wedding banquet came to life in 1997 by longtime actor turned producer and director Song Seung-hwan.
I was inspired by childhood memories of hearing my mother cook in the kitchen. I wanted to create a show that incorporated the traditional Korean rhythms of samulori and thought the kitchen had a number of items that could create those beats.
After 2 years, the show, also known as Cookin' in the West, hit the global stage, becoming the first Korean production to enter the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 1999, and then in 2003, becoming Korea's debut on Broadway. Since then, Nanta has toured the globe and has been shown more than 31,000 times in 289 cities and 51 different countries. Critics rave about the show's comedic features, its family-friendly nature, and the fun Korean beats that can get any crowd going.
When I first created the show, I didn't think it would last this long. Today, I see even greater opportunities for Korean-made productions to succeed even more abroad.
Officials now have their eyes set squarely on China, as the Nanta Theater is set to be built in Guangzhou by this June. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. We're having a freezing day today, and the perceived temperature was near minus 13 degrees Celsius this morning here in Seoul. And this chilly temperature and wind chill will persist throughout the day, with highs climbing to what it was like yesterday. And we have more snow of up to 10 centimeters in store for parts of the east, so beware of heavy snowfall if you're in those regions. In the meantime, the rest of the country should have another bright day under plenty of sunshine. With that in mind, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. Now, the daytime high in Seoul will climb to 0, while the high in Daegu and Gwangju should be slightly lower than yesterday, climbing into 5 and 3, and Busan will peak at 7 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island will rise to 6, Daejeon will top out at 2, and the snowy day continues in Dokdo with a high of 3. Now, this cold snap will ease up tomorrow afternoon, but temperatures will plummet again on Saturday morning with a low of minus 7 here in Seoul, although the skies will remain mostly to partly sunny for the time being. But that's all for Korea. Be sure to stay warm today, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, those are all the stories we're following at this hour.
Join us again at the same time on Thursday. Thank you for watching.